Okay, so I wanted to do this video on just a little bit more commentary here. I find it really weird when platforms on colorism and topics and discussions on colorism are always talking about what dark-skinned women experience or what they don't experience, when if you look at it, dark-skinned women don't even agree on if they experience colorism. I don't understand. If dark-skinned black women don't even agree that they experience colorism, how can we say that a dark-skinned black woman is going to experience colorism when not all of them do, and many of them claim it doesn't exist? That's what I don't get. Why is it that we have to listen to only the ones who think colorism exists, when it could really actually be that they are just mistaking what they're experiencing for colorism, when it's actually something totally different? That doesn't mean whatever they're experiencing is a good thing. It could be racism, it could be sizeism, sexism, all sorts of different things. It could be classism, but that doesn't mean that colorism exists just because some dark-skinned people, dark-skinned women specifically, believe it exists. Especially if you can't even get a consensus with dark-skinned black women that it exists. I've seen so many times where dark-skinned black women were usually appreciated and admired for their beauty, for being darker skinned. And I wouldn't say that means that all dark-skinned black women experience this, but it would be crazy to think that all dark-skinned women are told they're pretty for a dark-skinned person or that they're ugly. Just because a few were taught that does not mean all are. And anyway, it doesn't even mean that that's really why people call them ugly or pretty for a black girl. Also, one other thing here. I find it really weird that a lot of the time when people experience anti-black racism, for example, and they're not a darker-skinned black person, they just assume that darker-skinned black people will experience a stronger and worse experience. I think that mentality is because they want to feel like they're not the worst of the worst. But I don't think anyone really tells the difference here, to be completely honest. I mean, when it comes to racism from other races, I don't think they define the difference. If they think blackness is unattractive or whatever, they think blackness is unattractive. See, I've been in spaces when I was like a teen. Racism was very rampant and very loud online. I could post my ex-classmate who is biracial and very light-skinned. Like, she's very, very fair. I could post someone medium like myself. I could post someone who's dark-skinned like my cousin. In fact, I see the most positive comments coming from my dark-skinned cousin. But I can still find racism for all three. See, it's not about color. And that's why I've always known it's not about color. Many of the time, when people are against, like, black people, they don't care about your color, they care that you're black. And I think a lot of brown-skinned and light-skinned black people who want to believe colorism exists want to believe in it because it helps them feel a little bit better and cope with the racism a little bit better, in the sense where they feel like they can follow the white supremacist view of the black race and feel like they aren't the worst thing ever, when in reality, I don't think white supremacy defines light, dark, or brown-skinned black people. Because anyway, most of the time it's more so to do with your features anyway, because that's what designates you as black. So skin tone isn't going to have to do with this. This is why a darker Indian is treated better than a lighter-skinned black person when it comes to black racism. And also, I wanted to talk about one other thing. And I guess this will have to do with a bit of the last video I was talking about, where I feel like often when people like that, who are like Africans, who are basically, they have a different mindset because of the countries they come from, which are third world, and they are struggling. And they have an issue because they understand, they see themselves, their countries, as lesser because, you know, it's a third world country. They see the countries that have more money and they don't look like them. So they don't really understand a society that is multicultural and how it plays out in a country like the US. Because I wanted to also talk about the fact that when people talk about white supremacy and they talk about it having to do with class, or that white people have a higher class than other races, I don't know about other countries. That's other countries' problem or whatever's going on there. In America, though, white Americans aren't the people that have the most money. They're not the ones that have the most education. They're not the people who stay out of prison the longest. The struggle issues that go on, like welfare, prison, below the poverty line, and so forth, white Americans don't have the best record on this. And everybody knows this, honestly. If you think of it, being completely honest, if you pay attention to one thing, it often is, it seems, the people who, like white Americans and black Americans, do less than those who, for example, come from another country. For example, like African Americans. When I say African Americans, I mean like Nigerian Americans, South African Americans, Ghanaian Americans. Their stats on education and economic standing and things of that nature basically are much higher than black Americans and white Americans. You can see this with also many West Asian Americans as well, in comparison to white Americans, which, you know, they technically are of the same race. Then on top of it, it's also people who are Asian and Indian American that actually do better than all the aforementioned populations, basically. So to me, I just don't understand why people have this whole idea of white supremacy when we've moved past that at this point. And you can see that we've moved past that in this country because we have a white majority country. Our country is a white country, yet the majority is white, yet those who are on top and who do the best are not white. In fact, you can see among the average white American, there are black African Americans. When I say African Americans, I'm saying not from the American descendants of slaves, the new immigrant population, like Nigerians, Ghanaians and so forth. There are Middle Eastern people, there are Indians, there are Asians that do way better than white Americans do statistically. So obviously the whole white supremacy thing and class issue does not exist in this country. As much as people want to imagine it exists, the stats tell you that it doesn't exist. If people open their eyes and actually look outside, they will see that white Americans, many of them, you see, they are the common face of poverty. They're the majority of people who are actually poor in this country. Rightfully so, I guess, because they are the majority. But you can see that obviously if this was a country that was based in white supremacy still to this day, then they would not be the face of poverty. They would not be the ones who are not on the top of a country that they are the majority in. They would make this country work in their favor, but they don't, because our country is not made on white supremacy anymore. So that's one thing that I wanted to point out here. That, people love to make the importance of white supremacy, but it's like, if white supremacy is such an important factor, then we would basically be seeing people who were white on top, but they're not on top. So that lets you know. I think honestly people wish that white supremacy was a big factor in this country, but that doesn't make it so. So that's all I have to say in this video. Thanks for watching, and bye.